What is going on? I want to welcome you from Backcourt for today, Tuesday, November 8th, 2022. I'm your host, Sean Murphy. And today, we got to have a conversation about Jaden Ivey and Cade Cunningham because they both have been awesome. And we haven't talked as much about how great Jaden Ivey has been because Cade Cunningham has been at the forefront of the conversation. But when we look at the overall landscape of how these guys are playing in relation to other backcourts, in relation to other teams around the league, these guys have a pretty darn good chance to be special. This is from Johnny Kane just the other day, about last week. Jaden Ivey among NBA rookies, 15.7 points. He's fourth. 3.7 assists, first. Steals, first. Cade Cunningham, first in points, first in assists, third in rebounds in his class. So these guys are both excelling. Both are top tier talents in their draft classes. And in addition, they're learning to play with each other on both ends of the court. Obviously, when you look at the way that things are playing right now, a lot of times there will be those occasions where Ivy and Cade are playing that back and forth type of basketball. However, Ivy has the ability to cut to the basket, Cade's ability to play make. These guys both can take over the offense, run the offense, and do things in different ways. And it's the fact that they both have this ability to not be sped up and to take their time, which is something that's quite impressive. I think Cade, especially more so with that ability. Giannis, that's something that, he complimented Cade on as well. And, if you look at the way that Jaden Ivey's been playing, he's been exceeding expectations. And what he's done in particular is he's taken relatively pretty good care of the basketball, especially for someone that's 20 years old just coming into the league. Now, last night there was that game against Oklahoma City, and the thing that was incredibly impressive about that game in particular was the way that Cade and Ivy were able to take their team, put them over the top, carry them over in a big win, and do it in a way where they were struggling coming out of the gates. I mean, in that first half, Cade and Ivy were both, the entire team was struggling shooting from the field. They were 3 of 19 or 3 of 18 from beyond the arc. And then as the game went on, obviously things got better. But the thing that's, first of all, the skill set that this group already has on the offensive end, and then you couple that with the potential that they've shown on the defensive end, because obviously the defense to start the season has been not great. We're one of the worst teams in the NBA defensively. So when you're looking at player development and defense and how this team progresses, you're looking at those glimpses, you're looking at those moments when they are defending well. You look at those moments when the communication is good because you want to look at those glimpses of potential and see where they can grow and they can get better. And the thing that's been impressive in particular, like I said, Ivy, we've talked about this before where he was challenged by Troy Weaver to be a great defender in this league. And he seems to have taken that challenge to heart because if you look at, what Ivy's been doing on the court, when you look at what he's been doing, it's not just his offensive game. It's his defense as well. And, he did something last night in particular that hasn't been done since Grant Hill. And this is from StatMuse. And he had a game where he had 15 and 10, 5, 3, and 2. And he's the first player to have that type of stat line, the first rookie in a Pistons uniform to have that type of stat line since Grant Hill. 15 points, 11 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, 3 blocks. First Piston with 15, 10, 5, 2, and 2. That is overall production. And that is something that's impressive is that both of these guys are getting it done all around the box score. And it starts with their IQs because again, we talk a lot about Cade's IQ, and he came into the league with an innate ability to see the court and his ability to find a shot in the mid range, his ability to get a bucket literally whenever he wants to. It's clear that Cade's a star. But the thing that's impressive is that he has another guy on his team that can go out and do some similar things, but go get his in a different way. Because whereas, Cade gets it with, using leverage and using his body to get in the mid range, getting to his spots. Cade does it a lot more with changing his speed, changing his acceleration, using those athletic abilities and gifts that he has to get to the basket, cut and transition. It's so It's so damn tantalizing to think of what the future potential of this backcourt is. Now, obviously, they still have a lot of ways to go, but when you look at what makes this backcourt so threatening, obviously, we talk about everything that they can do on the offensive end, but they have the highest ceiling on the defensive end, in my opinion, of any backcourt that we have in the league right now. I mean, Trae Young and DeJounte Murray is only going to have the reason why they got DeJounte Murray was to cover up Trae Young on the defensive end. He's literally been hidden in all of their schemes. That's the secret to their success. Let Trae cook on the offensive end. Make sure he doesn't have to do much on the defensive end. They went out and got DeJounte Murray to make sure that that was a permanent reality. And then you look at other teams. You look at, obviously Philly has a terrible defensive backcourt, and Tyrese Maxey and James Harden. Great offensive backcourt. Philly, I mean, another team that has a pretty high defensive ceiling as far as their backcourt, obviously, is the Indiana Pacers with Benedict Mathurin and with Tyrese Haliburton. And by the way, Benedict Mathurin's been awesome too. And I don't want to take away from anything that he's done at all. But I know there's been this narrative of, especially there was this narrative after the first Pacers game when Benedict Mathurin came out and cooked us in the second half and had a stellar performance. But Jaden Ivey right now would also be in the top three along with Benedict Mathurin in the rookie of the year race. The simple fact, and I want to make another video going in depth about this later this week, but Jaden Ivey, it could both be true that Jaden Ivey is exceeding expectations and doing literally everything that he needs to do to put himself in position to be rookie of the year. And also, it is impossible for him to win rookie of the year because Paulo Banchero has been absolutely incredible. And I want to do a video specifically comparing it and just talking about like this entire class as a whole, talking about how Paolo's been great, talking about why, he's just up there because he's doing things in his rookie year that hasn't been done since LeBron. Whereas, Jaden Ivey, obviously, he did something for the Pistons that hasn't been done since Grant Hill. That's also damn impressive. He's leading his class in multiple statistical categories. But the difference is, first of all, Apollo has the amount of touches that a number one pick gets in Orlando. That's definitely going to make a difference. And if you look at the way that Jaden Ivey's currently set up on this team, he's our third option offensively. Currently, is the way things would go, right? Like you would think Cade is first on that pecking order. You'd think with the consistency of the way that Bojan's been playing, that we will get the ball to him next. And Ivy, a lot of it is him. There's obviously a lot of offense that's made for him. And obviously there's points in the game where they let Ivy take the ball and they go let him run with it and they let him cook because, with that type of athlete, you have to let him go and you have to let him succeed in the open court. But at the same time, just with the talent that the Pistons have, the way that the team is set up, the way that they're at in their rebuild, they have a lot of talent. They have guys that have workloads and that need to be fed. And like especially like even like guys like Sadiq Bey, right? Like he's someone that they need to get the ball to, and that's something that they've been working on. Now, saying all that, obviously there's still a lot of areas that Cade and Ivy need to grow. And it really just starts with, what makes a good backcourt versus what makes a great backcourt. When you look at the greatest backcourts of all time, like Joe Dumars and Isaiah Thomas, like Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, like all these great backcourts, a lot of it starts with their natural chemistry, communication, ability to play off one another and to play off one another on both ends of the court. You look at the Splash Brothers, what makes them special is that they know where each other is going to be on the court at all times. They know what their favorite moves are. They know where their favorite spots are. They know how they love to get there. They know how to get there. They don't even have to say anything for them to get into that rhythm and to get into that play. They can just give each other a look. And then from there, they can do it. That was the exact same way that Joe Dumars and Isaiah Thomas was. Their ability, their connection, their innate ability to understand what the other was doing on the court at all times, the amount that they were communicating and the amount that they were working together. And that's what we've seen from Cade and Ivy so far is that desire to be that great backcourt, that desire to work together and to collaborate together and to really build this with each other. And the thing that's been special is like, a lot of times you look at a team that drafts two guards in 2 years, and a lot of the conversation is around, well, are they going to fit together? Which is going to be the one that they ultimately build around, right? But like the conversation the entire time has been their desire to be the backcourt of the future together. That from day one, they want to play with each other and for each other. And so with that, a lot of that's going to have to take place, just over time. And it's going to have to be, less of playing back and forth and more of playing together. Because if they can have an offense that isn't just sometimes it's run by Ivy, sometimes it's run by Cade, which obviously there's going to be points where that's always going to happen in some respect, right? I mean, you're going to have you have 24 seconds in a shot clock. You have two dynamic guards. Some possessions, not one of them isn't going to touch the ball, right? That's fine, but it can't just be all back and forth. I know like a lot of people right now are looking at like the backcourt of Garland and Mitchell, and it's like, oh, it's terrifying. They can both combine for a ton of points. It's not going to matter if they're not going to be able to play together. It's not gonna be able to matter if they don't put that together. By the end of the playoffs, they're able to, communicate together and be effective on the defensive end and have that type of positioning. And that's where I really do feel like the ceiling of this backcourt is so high, is because they have more length and versatility than most backcourts in the league. And in addition, you're not satisfied. You're not sacrificing playmaking. You're not sacrificing scoring. You're not sacrificing athleticism. You're not really sacrificing shooting, which even though both of them need to work on their jump shots, and either of them right now, by any stretch of the imagination, are great jump shooters, but they both are good enough, and they both have shown that at points that if they are open, that they can hit a shot. But it's about being able to do a lot of these things consistently through 4 quarters, and that's where a lot of young players need to learn about winning the game. And the good thing is that these guys both start from a basis of wanting to do as much as they can for their team and doing as much as they can all over the box score. You have guys that are committed to being great on both ends of the court and have that established culture and that established standard of what it means to be a great backcourt in Detroit. But also, when you look at, like, what they have as far as, like, their potential to be a backcourt of the future, they have all of the intangibles to be their own special brand of a great backcourt in Detroit, because even though we've had some awesome backcourts in our time, we've never had one like this. I mean, Isaiah Thomas was insanely talented. Don't get me wrong. When he came into the league, he was a hooper. His skill set was insane, but like his athleticism outside of his speed, it's not like he was insanely tall. It's not like he was the one that, if he came into the draft, and everyone was like, oh, pick him. He was the number 3 or number 2 overall pick in his draft class. Like with Cade, that's a bona fide number 1 pick. Not only does he have the skill and the leadership and the mental intangibles of a Joey D and an Isaiah Thomas, but then you also throw in the fact that he's like that, similar to Grant Hill, he's that generational talent out of the draft as well. He's that special type of guy that comes into the league right away and commands respect from defenders that people look at right away. And it's like, no, that guy's good. I mean, Giannis Antetokounmpo, the greatest player in the world, no debate, said this past week, yeah, no, Cade's for real. He said, yeah, no, you can't rush him to any of his spots. He's going to get to his spots. He's going to do what he's going to do. And he's special. He controls the game. And that's coming from not only the best player in the world, but one of the greatest defenders in the world. And you look at what Milwaukee did in their second game, too, to adjust to Cade and how they changed their approach. It definitely showed that they're fearful and respecting of what he can do. And so with that, when teams are shutting down Cade, especially if you want to like go forward and like win games, that's where like Ivy's gonna have to really step up. And as the season goes on, like obviously I think we've seen in big games already that both Cade and Ivy are able to produce. And we even saw Ivy produce against Milwaukee. So I think overall, I think the point of all of this is just to say, through 10 games, I don't think you could be, or 11 games, I should say, I don't think you could be more optimistic about what this backcourt has been. But also, I don't think it could be more important to press on how important it is these guys improve, how important it is that this relationship continues to be at the center of this team's rebuild and restoration. And also just ultimately how important it is that we get this backcourt right because when building great teams in Detroit, we talk a lot about how great they need to be on the defensive end. They need to have a great backcourt too. We won with a great backcourt with the bad boys. We won with a great backcourt in the going to work era. We're gonna win with a great backcourt in the Troy Weaver era too, and I'm confident it's these guys. What do you think of Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey? Let me know in the comment section down below. Where do you think that they need to both improve in their games, both on offense and defense? I would love to know as well. Also, be sure you follow me on Twitter at Sean Halfcourt to join the conversation and to talk to me during Pistons games as well, man. Always love talking hoops. Always love the basketball world because that's what we do here at From Half Court, covering all things NBA and Detroit Pistons. But with that, folks, I want to thank you all so much for tuning in. We'll catch you guys next time from Half Court. Be sure you subscribe.